Next stop everywhere.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again with just one partner in time this week. Sadly, Karen is out apartment shopping this week and was not able to join us. But thankfully, we have another partner in time, everybody's favorite partner in time, Jesse Jackson.
You know, you are always so kind to say, but you are my favorite partner in time too, Charles.
Well,
it is
it's just a mutual love fest.
We have a bromance, right? Just
right.
like Nate and Brandon. I'm trying. Ray and and Legends.
On Legends of Tomorrow, yes. I know what you're talking about. The Time Bros.
Yeah,
we're Time Bros.
We're the Time Bros. That actually works for us.
Right.
Yes. Best of luck to Karen. We have now gone Jesse and Charles.
Right.
Karen and Charles.
Yes.
Now we're back to Jesse and Charles. Hopefully we'll not have to do just Karen and Jesse. Hopefully soon we can be.
According to Karen, I'm not allowed to leave for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So what if, say next Wednesday, the AMC theater is going to be showing Superman the movie back on the big screen for Fathom Events. Ooh. And what if yours truly wanted to actually take off and go see that?
I say go for it, and
you would understand.
I would, yeah.
Okay, but according to Karen, I'm not allowed to leave.
No, do old school. Just Karen and I be old school. I think that's fine.
Well, we'll see.
Yes,
But yeah, today, everybody, before we get too off into the weeds,
yes,
we're going to talk about the Witchfinders here in episode 126, and that was the Doctor Who episode that aired just a few days ago on November 25th, 2018, and written by Joy Wilkinson, directed by Sally Abrahamian, who directed Arachnids in the UK. And which was earlier in this series, 11. And this was the 8th episode. And definitely looking forward to talking about that with you, Jesse. So, dying to know your thoughts about this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, a really fun episode. I haven't had a chance to share this with you yet, but I went to lunch with Ken a couple weeks ago.
Friend of the show,
Ken
Schaefer.
Friend of the show, has been on the show. My other Whovian godfather, who helped me.
Right.
So he and Parker, his youngest son, watched Doctor Who together. They've gone through all the classic Whos. They're working through it. Parker is a major Who fan, but Parker is very particular, not about the Doctor, but about he thinks there should be aliens. If they're not in space, if they're not aliens, it's not good Doctor Who. So, for example, the warehouse where, the human was the villain and the delivery robots wasn't enough for him.
So you're talking about the previous week's episode, Kerblam.
Yes.
Which had robots, which you think would be entertaining to a kid, not so much.
Well, Parker's 22, so.
Oh, okay. Well, no longer a kid then.
So what? 19 or 20? I'm trying to think. So anyway, I was thinking as I watched this that Charles always wants a creepy Doctor Who.
Not always, but it helps.
Well, that's one of your favorites.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does help.
Yeah. Check.
Yes.
You know,
You're talking about the Witchfinders now.
Yes, the Witchfinders. That's what I'm then
getting to. Yeah.
Parker likes there to be aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Check. I personally always love when the Doctor goes to the past and historical events. Check.
Right.
So this was a really, really good episode. Just the right amount of creepiness, a very interesting villain, and a great, great cast, and especially a special guest star that I think we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, how about you? Your overall thoughts?
My overall thoughts before we get into our guest cast, I enjoyed this one quite a bit, actually. I liked the fact that it was very much a well-rounded Doctor Who episode. We travel back to the past. We explore something that we haven't learned much about here, at least in the United States. So I kind of learned something a little bit about these witch trials in this part of England. And, we've got a threatening menace, and it turns out that the menace is due to aliens. So, hooray, we've got alien monsters. And that just so happened, as we find out through the course of this story, were imprisoned inside this hillside. And as a result, it's very traditional Doctor Who. So hopefully a lot of so-called fans criticizing Series 11 for not being traditional Doctor Who hopefully enjoyed this one, and hopefully they watched it.
Well, if they aren't, it's their loss.
I agree.
I am continuing to be so impressed with the stories that they're trying to tell. I love Jodie as the Doctor, and I'm getting confused now, and we'll tell why in a minute.
Yes.
But I can't remember if it was you or Ken who said he was concerned about that crowded of a TARDIS.
Right.
And so I don't know if that.
I think it was probably Ken.
Yeah. So because he and I went to lunch in a timey-wimey way after we originally discussed this episode, spoilers, and he said that he was really worried that many people in the TARDIS, and he has thought they've pulled it out really well. If you aren't watching this, if you don't enjoy this season, I think you don't really like Doctor Who. There, I've said it. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you can, Davison still can't be your Doctor, and that doesn't mean you liked when Moffat was doing his timey-wimey stuff better, or when Matt Smith was being the manic, or you loved Eccleston's brooding north, but you have to. It is good and sometimes great Doctor Who this season, and so that's what I'm going. You're just looking for things not to like.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, granted, different people react to Doctor Who differently,
right?
And some people are going to react to it differently than others, obviously. But I think by and large, as someone who's watched the show for quite a while, since I was about 15, 16 years old, this is straightforward Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Some episodes may not be classics, but a lot of episodes throughout all the various Doctors have not been classics.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just take the rough with the smooth, and you hope for the best that there'll be a better one along next week. So I know we get on this topic a lot because it's been very frustrating with the online reaction to a lot of Doctor Who Series 11.
Yeah.
So we don't mean to soapbox. It's just kind of a pet peeve we're having right now.
It is.
All right.
Oh, anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah. So let's kind of put that to the side for the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and let's talk about the guest cast that we had this week, because it's a pretty notable one, at least as far as the first person I want to talk about, Alan Cumming, the actor that plays King James I, or King James VI of Scotland, but King James I of England. Go look it up, kids. It's history. And he's most notable for playing in recent years. He played Boris Grishnikov in the James Bond movie GoldenEye. So we have yet another Bond connection that we've talked about.
Always
and
nice.
And he was a great character in that movie. If you watch that movie, that was Pierce Brosnan's first Bond movie, and he played this great Russian hacker character called Boris. And he's the guy who at the end of the movie ends up standing up going, "I am invincible," and then ends up getting frozen in liquid nitrogen. And so that was great. He was a great character actor in that. He also played Nightcrawler in X-Men 2, X2 X-Men United, and The Incredible Nightcrawler.
Yes.
And he was really good in that.
He was.
And a completely different character. And then you know him from playing Eli Gold on the CBS series The Good Wife.
Yes, he plays a political campaign operative, always trying to manipulate. He ends up the kind of a connection because Chris Noth was
who was in Arachnids in the UK.
Yeah. So Peter was Peter's campaign manager.
Oh.
So we have two actors from Doctor Who Series 11 that were on The Good Wife. Yes. What you're telling me. Yes, it is. I had not thought about that, but that's
cool.
Great. Yeah. And so he was a wonderful character. And then I know it's a small part, but he was, when I first went to watch Sherlock, when it was going to be on America's PBS.
Right.
Alan Cumming is the one who did the narration. He did the introduction, and he set the table perfectly. So yeah, just one of my favorite actors, and he was just so much fun in this episode. As you said, he might be just a little scenery.
Chewing a little bit of scenery, as I talked about on the interwebs, because I was live tweeting the episode, as I usually do. So if you happen to follow me on Twitter, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. And so you'll usually find me live tweeting at least during the commercial breaks. I'm usually trying to watch the episode, so I try not to tweet during the actual episode,
right? Unless
it's something really that needs addressed somehow, but usually between the commercials I'll be tweeting something.
Good.
So we also had Siobhan Finneran as Becka Savage, the rather callous and cold-hearted lady of the land, and who ends up trying to help drown all these witches as part of this religious crusade. And you might know her most notably from playing Lady Grantham's rather devious maid, Miss O'Brien, on Downton Abbey. And she was rather the scrupulous character, or unscrupulous as the case may be, on that show. And she was so as soon as I knew she was going to be in this episode, I figured, she's going to be playing a villain, and sure enough, she was. And I thought she did a really good job. And then we also had Tilly Steele, who played Willa Twiston, the young girl whose grandmother ends up drowning at the beginning of this episode. You may recognize her from playing yet another servant on the British series. She plays Miss Cleary on the ITV series Victoria, which stars Jenna Coleman, as in Clara Oswald from Doctor Who, Jenna Coleman. And I really enjoy that series, and I gather you do as well.
I do. I don't watch Downton Abbey, though I know I should. And I'm sure that one weekend or,
right,
we'll do a binge. But we do watch.
It's got
Victoria.
Harriet Jones, MP Flydale North in it.
Exactly. So yeah, it was
Lots of great actors.
So very, very cool.
Yep. So a lot of great notable cast, and I can't wait to talk about this episode. So we're going to have 3 topics, and we're going to talk about first. We're going to talk about the Doctor, and then I want to talk about King James and the gang, the Doctor's gang, in the second topic, and then the third topic we're going to talk about Becka Savage and the Morax, our alien mud race.
Nice.
So we're going to talk about that. And so let's dive into our first topic.
Okay.
And going with a bit of a witch theme this week, as you might imagine, with the Witchfinders. We're going to talk about the first topic is Burn the Witch. And Burn the Witch, We Know Where You Live, which is a reference to the song Burn the Witch by Radiohead, which no pun intended, which came out in 2016. And so that's and I know that's Radiohead's not exactly your scene, but I really dig the band. It's a very cool alternative band, and they're very experimental and very cool.
Very cool.
I like them a lot. So this I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Doctor, because the Doctor, as it turns out, this is her really first confrontation with experiencing difficulty as a time traveler, as a female, as a female Time Lord, or as a woman. And so I know a lot of fans have been wanting to see this and haven't up till now. I know there's been some grumbling that, well, hey, why hasn't the Doctor's gender been addressed in stories? And here in the Witchfinders, it's front and center because, hey, she's a strange, odd woman who is waving around this magic wand, as it's referred to, aka the sonic screwdriver, in this episode, and is naturally presumed to be a witch at some point, which you knew was coming. But it also highlights, I think, the frustrations that a female Doctor would have traveling back into, especially Earth's past, and that's something I'm definitely looking forward to talking about with you, Jesse.
Yeah, Charles, one of the things that Doctor Who, I don't think, is shying away from this. I think they just didn't want to make it the main focus.
Right.
They've kind of talked about it in the past and kind of wink, wink. I know Capaldi talked about the past is a little more. There was more diversity in the past than they like to share sometimes.
Right.
I really liked how they covered this. I thought it was very good. She was very ticked off, and it was so in character because, first off, the Doctor always thinks they're the smartest person in the room, whether they are or not. Now, most of the times they are, but every once in a while they're not. They also expect everyone to let them be in charge right away.
Right. And for here, the Doctor just it's kind of frustrating for her because she pulls out the psychic paper and tries to present herself as the Witchfinder General. Yeah. And which works as far as Becka Savage goes.
Right. With the female, it works.
Right. But with a woman, it works. And then with Alan Cumming, his King James I, when he shows up, the Doctor presents the psychic paper, and because probably skewed by King James I's dated sexist attitudes toward women, he reads the psychic paper as, well, oh, you're just the Witchfinder's assistant.
Because there's no way a woman could be in charge.
Right. And so he automatically looks toward the next oldest or the oldest male around, and of course that's Graham.
Yes.
So he's automatically presuming that Graham, as the old guy, must be the leader of the group.
Yeah, and as Graham later says, right?
Yes.
We're a very flat organization.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And which I thought was a very clever line. And
and
then he gives Graham the Witchfinders hat, and kudos to Bradley Walsh for rocking that hat.
He rocks that hat. Yes, that's great.
So for I know I want to get into this discussion about the doctor's frustration.
Yeah.
But hey, we've already talked about that before because guess what, everybody? We had problems with the very first part of our episode.
Yes.
So everything up till now has been a second take.
Yes.
So what we're going to do through the magic of computers is we're going to try to splice this new opening with the stuff we recorded, a couple of days ago.
Yes.
When we talked about this originally. So
that way we don't have to redo our quotes.
Right.
We don't have to redo our ratings.
Because we're lazy that way.
We are lazy that way. Well, and it
we don't want to have to recreate the entire episode, which hopefully you can understand. So I know we're kind of pulling back the curtain, but we figured this transition might be a little awkward.
Right.
So as a result, we're doing this rather awkward transition. So bear with us, and everybody just kind of we'll just pick right up.
Yes, exactly.
Where we left off, and just pretend that it was all just one seamless conversation. Okay.
And if you go, wow, they're repeating themselves, you'll know why.
Exactly.
Though we tried not to repeat ourselves.
So, exactly. So
very cool.
So take it away, Charles. Okay, Charles.
Linda has not had a chance to see the episode yet because, as we talked about before we hit record, we've been fighting a cold.
Yes.
So I really was hoping she would have seen it so we could talk about this because it was not subtle, the doctor's frustration.
Right.
I think.
And especially coming from a woman as a scriptwriter of this episode, Joy Wilkinson.
And I don't think
there's probably a lot of understandable insight that obviously from a male perspective you're not going to get.
And I'm okay with it not being subtle because I think it was part of the story.
Right.
I thought it was fascinating that the psychic paper once again is used. And the king cannot imagine that a woman would be in charge. So he read the psychic papers differently than the, first.
Yes.
Of course, thinking the man's in charge.
Right.
And I did not write down the quote. I'm hoping you did. But when the Dr. flat says, when I was a guy, I wouldn't have to put up with this junk.
I've got that quote.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very important quote, so I made sure I had that one. That you're right. That King James, initially the Doctor presents herself as a Witchfinder general because of the psychic paper, and then she shows the psychic paper to King James, and King James says, "Oh, well, like it says here, you're just the Witchfinder's assistant."
Yeah.
And because of his mindset. And so automatically he's looking toward Graham, who's the older of both him and Ryan, as the true leader of the group. And the Doctor is just somebody who helps him.
Yeah.
So, which had to be, it's a very unusual position for the Doctor to be in, I think.
I think so too. Very frustrated. And I think it was the right time to bring this up, because there are things that affect the Doctor,
right?
Because of outward appearance. When the Doctor is cast as someone of a different different race.
Right. Species.
Yeah.
Almost.
if we got a England American, African American, African England. I don't know the correct
You mean just a
yeah,
black person?
Yeah, a black person is the doctor.
Yeah, because they're not
You can't
from
call
England
them,
you can't call them Afro
African
American
England.
African. Yeah,
Uh,
they're not African American in
you know,
England. Yeah.
because the show Timeless talked a lot about that.
Right.
One of the three main characters was an African American guy, and
Right.
how often when he went in the past, he talked about this is never good for me. This is
Right.
there are very few cases in the past. So I'm glad they brought that up, and I'm glad that the doctor was frustrated with it. I did like the doctor ignoring the rules. Do not change things. Do not change things. Do not change things.
Well, it's the doctor, of
We're
course.
We're going to change
Yeah,
things.
yeah, it's the doctor. Of course, she's going to quickly ignore what she just told everybody else to do.
And Karen talked about this last episode, how much she loves Graham.
Right.
And I am on the Graham bandwagon as well. First off, I think even I could cosplay Graham. You get a plaid shirt and a nice sweater.
Yeah. There you go. There's your doctor. There's your next convention
exactly.
Cosplay. It was Graham. That'd be perfect.
He's given Doc grief about, okay, can you not get us to where we're supposed to be? Look around. This is not Elizabeth I's coronation.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I just
which I kind of, now that you bring it up, I kind of wondered about it. Like, remember the doctor married Elizabeth I?
Yes.
So wouldn't that coronation be a little awkward, perhaps, for the doctor to appear at? So I'm not quite sure why she wanted to go there, but.
Well,
okay.
She looks a little different now. So.
Maybe just to check up on the ex, I guess.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I really, I love the doctor figuring it out.
Right.
I love the doctor, solving the mystery. So yeah, and I really appreciate her being frustrated about what's going on.
Yeah.
She's still a little not sure what to call the team. You notice she kind of stumbles sometimes. Like at the very end, my friends, my mates, my teams, but yeah, I just I thought it was a great story point, a great wrinkle to add to the story, and I enjoyed it. What did you think?
Yeah, and obviously the some fans had criticized the show for not addressing the doctor's femininity right off the bat. That with the being played by Jodie Whittaker, that maybe it should have been addressed a little sooner. But keep in mind that this is the doctor. The doctor isn't bothered by gender. The doctor is has traveled all through space and time, doesn't really perceive that. So when he or she gets into a situation like this, and now that the doctor is female, that it throws her for a loop because she's not used to that. She doesn't perceive it. So, and this is obviously her first time in a female body that we know of. Presumably, and it's definitely off-putting for her. It throws her off her game a little bit, and maybe it's going to make her more sympathetic toward her female companions from now on.
Yes,
at least one would hope, because I know that sometimes the doctor, especially like in the cases of black companions, like Bill or Martha, they go back, the doctor takes them back to the past, and here they are having to deal with the kind of social prejudice because of their race. And so maybe this will bring a more woke doctor, perhaps, like someone, maybe this will bring a little more enlightenment to the Doctor, more awareness. I kind of don't think so, but it would be nice to think that like maybe she learned something from this experience, at least for a while until she ends up forgetting. But after living so long, but I thought it was interesting, and you could definitely kind of see the script by Joey Wilkinson conveyed a lot of that frustration, and I think Jodie Whittaker's performance helped sell that as well, because I'm sure Jodie had read some of the criticism about her taking over from, that kind of narrow-minded fans who only see the Doctor being male forever, and so maybe that gave Jodie an excuse to kind of convey a little bit of that frustration through that dialogue. Just that, especially that old line about well, if I was a bloke, I could just do my thing and not have to explain myself. And, which is the case. I mean, the Doctor should just be able to go out and be the Doctor. And we shouldn't be so hung up on this gender thing, but a lot of people still are. And that's just that's something that we as a society have to kind of work to try to overcome, I think.
Yeah, what
I know I'm soapboxing here, and I don't mean
no,
to.
that's okay. And I don't know if the Doctor needs to learn anything. I think the Doctor is just she's just frustrated because one, she's always the smartest person in the room.
Right.
Whether she is or not, she thinks she is. She often is. She most of the time is, but just she always. And she always believes she's in charge. And
so do you think this kind of like helped take her ego down a peg a little bit?
I don't think so, because I think she's...
Because the Doctor's always had such a strong ego.
She's secure enough that they're wrong, I'm right, and I'm going to move on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I believe.
They're going to have to adjust to me.
Yes.
Is what you're, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, all right. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think about her, the way she figured out what was going on with Becka Savage and the revelation of the Morax? And we'll get into them, obviously, a little more in detail, but what did you think about the way that was handled?
Yeah,
did that work for you?
Yeah, it did. The way she went, okay, I can buy this,
right,
and I can buy that, but not this and that.
Yes. That was a good line, by the way. I don't have that one, but it's a good one.
Yeah. I thought it was really good. Yeah, and it's why today, because this is my problem. I can buy that this is the biggest ever witch hunt in England. Yeah. Or I can buy that it's an alien mud invasion. But both on the same day, I can't buy that. And then there's someone going, why does he keep talking about commerce? Why does she keep talking about commerce? So yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
Right.
The Doctor once again shows her intellect solving the problem. And she, humanely dealt with them pretty well. So, right. Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, and obviously this episode gave the Doctor, I think, a chance to once again show her moral outrage at the fact that Becka Savage was killing all these innocent women, claiming they were, they're witches, and just brutally killing them, drowning them, or what have you. And right when the episode starts, they have to try to save. The Doctor dives in to try to save, what's her name, Willa's grandmother, and ultimately fails. But which, of course, just these looks, and Jodie Whittaker did this really well. This condemnation, this scathing reproach from the Doctor. that just like, how dare you? And I thought that was really good, and I thought Jodie Whittaker did a really good job with that.
Yeah, I thought so too. You know, once again, I just say Jodie is killing it.
Right.
She is just amazing, and I really love what she's doing, with the role. So, yeah, I like that a lot. So, and then we'll talk about the companions, right?
Okay. All right.
The
Yeah.
fans,
Yeah. Well,
fans.
yeah. Why don't we just go ahead and
Okay.
do that? So let's move on to topic number 2. So this is must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch.
Okay.
And that's Donovan, of course, that old classic.
Yes.
Which I actually have on my iPod. I like that song.
Okay.
I dig that, especially around Halloween time. That's a good one to play. This is a King James and the Doctor's Gang I want to talk about. So Alan Cumming as King James, again, chewing the scenery for every bit that it's worth and seemingly having a ball. And his interactions, especially with Ryan, were pretty funny because he kept flirting with Ryan.
Yes.
And so what did you think of it? First off, let's talk about that. What did you think about the King James essentially trying to hit on Ryan and Ryan awkwardly trying to not think about what is happening around him?
So there is a long tradition in Doctor Who that if a character in history even has the vaguest history or the vaguest thought that they may have homosexual tendencies, they're going to play with that a little bit.
Or bisexual. I think from what I read, that there was reports that King James was, rumors at least that he was bisexual. Yeah. So this would be definitely in character if he's playing both sides of the fence, so to speak.
And so I thought that was great. I thought I also thought of the when they met Shakespeare and with Martha calling her a Nubian princess.
The Nubian goddess or Nubian princess or whatever.
So that was great. I kind of like how Ryan.
What is it about this time period that they keep comparing people to black people to Nubians? Yeah. Is that the only way I guess they could
I guess so.
Rationalize it? I guess. Yeah.
But I love the I'm in charge of mostly paperwork, and just
and Ryan trying to come up with the least interesting thing.
Yes.
And then King James turns around and he's like, "Ooh, paper, tell me more."
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that later.
Yep.
So I liked it. There is a little. The TARDIS is crowded, and so it is tough to get a lot of time with all 4 of them. The Doctor's going to get the majority of the time.
Right.
Yaz got some good solo time today. So it was good.
Yeah, we should talk about Yaz real quick because she helped to save. Well, actually, she was working with. She tracked down Willa as she's burying her grandmother, and that's where they end up. During the burial, this tendril comes out that tries to attack her.
Yes.
And Yaz helps save Willa. So at least she got to do something in this episode.
Yes.
But I think she was the most underwritten in this episode once again.
Yeah, I think so. And I didn't get to join you last week because I was stuck at work.
Right.
But I had expected Yaz to kind of miss her family, but instead they kind of talked about her wanting to go bring the little locket to her friends, the guy who saved her life.
Oh, and Kerblam, yeah.
Because I thought she might want to say that, can we go visit my family, that she was going to miss them. Well,
I think Yaz's family, apart from her grandmother drive her nuts.
Yeah.
So she's looking to get away from them, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But you would think she would at least want to get in touch with her grandmother again.
Yes.
So, but Doctor Who, you got to have those companions out there traveling with the Doctor. So you kind of have to overlook that from time to time.
Yes,
I think.
Absolutely.
All right. So what did you think of? Now Graham had quite a bit to do in this episode.
Yeah.
And once again, he's just like, he's everybody. We are all Graham, as Karen pointed out last week so eloquently.
Yes.
He was great. He got to wear the goofy Witchfinder hat. And
he owned that hat.
He rocked that hat, didn't he?
He rocked that hat. Yes, he did.
And so maybe there's your Graham cosplay. You could go as Graham wearing the big Witchfinder hat.
Yes.
But that was good, and just I think Graham was having some fun at Ryan's expense when I think he was catching on to the fact that King James was hitting on Ryan.
Yes.
And kind of bemused by the whole situation, I think, a little bit.
I think he was too.
But I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Let's see. So anything else about King James you want to talk about? Or now the Doctor does kind of like confront King James a bit. And King James is very insistent that they have pretty good exchange where the Doctors, like, they kind of talk about King James asks her, how do you know all this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Yeah.
And she's going, hey, look, you want to know the secrets of existence, you got to look inside yourself a little bit. And that the Doctor's trying to bring some evolved thinking to King James, who is this adamant, Bible thumper.
Yes.
And I don't think she made much headway. I don't think she expected to make much headway.
No.
But there's that kind of clash of ideas. What did you think about that? That clash of the Doctor kind of butting up against that kind of religious fanatic in King James.
I'm not sure. She knew she couldn't change his mind.
Right.
But I think it bothered her
because he was taking it to such an extreme.
Yeah.
I don't think. 'Cause the Doctor obviously knows her King James Bible.
Yes.
And was quoting that pretty well to
Yes.
King James.
Right.
And so that I think that the Doctor just had that problem with that extreme outlook because, that King James is seeing himself as like an agent of God to go out and to purge the evil of Satan from the world by getting rid of these witches.
Yes.
And as a result, it's like taking these innocent lives. And obviously the Doctor's going to have a problem with that.
Yeah, I thought it was he wasn't very smart.
Sympathetic?
Sympathetic, yeah. So I did feel very bad. And I just kept going, is no one thinking, do they not realize the hypocrisy of, well, if you die, you're innocent.
Right.
If you live, you're guilty, and then we're going to kill you. Either way, you die.
Yes,
it just
exactly.
seems like someone would go.
It's a Kobayashi Maru. It's a no-win scenario.
You would think someone would go, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Yeah, exactly.
Wait just a minute,
But see that was the religious trap back then. Was that hey, look, if you drown, then obviously you're not a witch. So I guess you die, but hey, you're innocent, so you got that going for you, right?
Yeah, and I did a little research, just
Yeah,
casual going through the internet, but the
right,
whole idea was, especially in the New World,
right.
the Salem, they believed in predestination.
Yes,
So you already knew, God had predetermined who was going to heaven and who was going to hell, as I do air quotes.
right. I
So
was gonna say you have to kind of explain that because people
yes,
can't out there can't see that.
right. And so so the idea, I guess, they're thinking is, yes, but we've proven
Right,
you've, even though you're dead, you've gone on to a better place.
right.
So, but it just doesn't seem,
Yeah.
it makes no
Well,
sense at
just
all.
this period is just discussing this period of history
Yeah.
and just the pure religious hypocrisy.
Yes.
Um, and I just thought it was. I was glad it was at least addressed
You know,
without being like it was just this is something that happened. It was a very dumb period in history, and unfortunately, it cost a lot of people their lives. And I'm glad it was at least addressed.
yeah, it is hard for me to believe and imagine, Charles,
Right, right,
um, Christians
right.
embracing such unchristian behavior and embracing leaders that don't even act in the least bit Christ-like
No,
and totally ignore the love your neighbor. I mean, just all focused on the part one, not the sequel. I mean,
right.
I just can't imagine that happening. Can you, Charles?
In 2018, oh,
Tongue
maybe I
firmly in
could.
cheek.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. All right,
Yeah,
we'll move on. Move on. We're not a political
yeah,
podcast.
exactly. We're not a political podcast, so we're not
Yes.
gonna. We'll just leave it right there.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Let's move on to our next topic then. As
Yes.
we'll kind of just kind of shrug our ties
Moving
a little.
on. Nothing to
Yeah,
see
moving
here.
on. Exactly. All right. Topic number 3. I got a black magic woman. I got a black magic woman.
So I was going for Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead.
Right.
Was my guess?
That was another one. But
Yes.
but I decided to go for. See, I love the Santana version.
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
Now this is actually a Fleetwood Mac song that Santana covers,
Hmm.
but Santana's version is more well known than the Fleetwood Mac version. So
And I'm going to play the part of Karen and Charles,
yes,
and pretend this is Fandom Zone.
yes.
So, and
So we'll talk another half an hour.
we do
extra.
not have the segue
Yes.
drop to play, but on Sirius XM, not the car version, but the online version, there is a covers channel. They play nothing but covers,
I would love that.
and
You have to pay extra for that though, don't
yeah,
you?
like $2 or $3 a month to
Oh,
get it
okay.
online. But what's beautiful is sometimes you'll go, "That's a cover," because it's
Right.
so well known, the
Right.
hit. Yeah,
Yeah, like just to I know we're kind of digressing a little bit,
yeah,
but like the All Along the Watchtower.
yeah,
Most people know the Jimi Hendrix version,
right,
but Bob Dylan wrote that song.
yeah,
So so that's the original, but that's another. It's just an example of the cover
exactly.
version being more famous than the
Yeah.
guy who originally wrote the song.
Yeah. So anyway, that's back to
Yeah.
that. I love these. I love these aliens. I think they
The more
taking-
acts.
Yeah, taking the form of
Right.
mud versions of people who had died.
Right.
Explained why all the horses had died because they were, possessing the horses.
Right.
And the idea that, the doctor put them back in jail and
Yes.
kind of set them. It was just a cool visual effect. a
Right.
creepy monster.
Right.
It was just great.
Yeah, I like the reveal. Now Becca Savage, as we're introduced to her initially, we obviously don't like her from the start. She comes off as very callous and
Yes.
heartless, and just again another example of just someone so caught up in the religious fanaticism that they're just taking it to this extreme. So, so when we finally get the reveal that we see that little inky black stuff come out of her eye socket
Hmm.
and the corner of her eye, and we're like, oh, she's infected with what's going on,
Yeah.
and and that then there's that full-fledged transformation. We feel kind of even more justified in hating her because obviously she's the bad guy threat, and she kind of got what was coming to her, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought that the handkerchiefs was a
Right.
little too subtle of a clue. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, her eyes bleed blood.
Well,
Okay,
I think it was just something for you to pay attention to, and
yeah,
then once her eye started leaking
yeah.
that fluid,
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, well, that's why she had the handkerchiefs. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, I thought that was good, and I like the Morax. I like the fact that you had these mud aliens that apparently were just in alien jail, as it turns out, and just so happened that, well, hey, Becca Savage decided, well, hey, I want to do a little landscaping and chop down this tree. Well, turns out, guess what? That tree's connected to the Morax's prison, and that ends up creating enough of a crack to allow them to start to escape. And
Yeah,
that's where wackiness ensues, of course.
exactly. And the the image of the tree by itself
Right.
was really well done.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
And apparently, from what I read, Lancashire is it's one of these kind of landscapes that has a lot of like flat earth with these stark trees popping out
Okay.
in various places. So it kind of made sense from a story standpoint to have this tree be this object of apparently Becca Savage's annoyance because it obstructed her view, or at least affected her view, and ultimately becomes her undoing as a result. And we find out that the hill that I'm trying to see if I wrote down the name of the hill, the Pendle Hill, and apparently this is the Pendle Hill witch trials were apparently very famous. I actually looked this up.
Ah.
So this is actually something. This is another actual event in history that Doctor Who is exploring. So this isn't just something cooked up for the show. This actually happened. It just happens it has a Doctor Who spin that, oh, guess what? Aliens were behind it. And so we have here with actual history being the basis for the story. And so this Pendle Hill is ultimately revealed to be an alien jail. And I thought that was rather interesting.
Yeah, because Graham talked about he's done the walking tour.
Right.
So
Yeah, he's the first one to recognize the hill.
yes.
Because he's done it obviously centuries later in his present. And so that was kind of like one of his contributions to the story, which I thought worked. All right. Anything else about the Morax or Becca Savage?
No, but Wikipedia people, come on.
Yeah.
When you look up Pendle Witches, there is
Yep.
not a link under the that says, literary or other media, and
Well,
they do not have. So let's get that in there, guys.
To be fair, it just happened yesterday.
Hey,
So
come on, Wikipedia's.
it's a holiday weekend. Give everybody a break.
Good point.
At least in the U.S., it's a holiday weekend. All right. All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
did you just love her quoting Arthur C. Clarke?
That was nice. That was unexpected.
Yes.
And I loved Graham quoting Ezekiel 25:17.
Yes.
Which of course he's referencing. He mentions this to King James, that he's referencing Quentin Tarantino's use of the quote in Pulp Fiction by Samuel L. Jackson.
Right.
Which I thought was fun. So apparently Graham is a Pulp Fiction fan, so respect there.
Absolutely.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So
right.
No, I just thought it was great.
Yeah, that was great. I enjoyed that quite a bit. All right. So, do you have any favorite quotes of the episode?
I have a couple.
All right. You already rattled off one, so
yes.
give me another one.
Yeah. My favorite quote was, and I so want to see this episode.
Yes.
She truly is a powerful witch. No, sire, I am no witch. I'm just good at holding my breath and getting out of chains, thanks to a very wet weekend with Houdini. I want that episode.
This is not the first time the Doctor's mentioned Houdini.
Yes.
So we really need to see the Doctor meeting Houdini. I don't know why we haven't seen that till now.
Yeah.
It's ripe with story potential. So
I agree. Yes.
That needs to happen. Somebody do that, please.
Yes.
Let's see. There's one line I liked early on in the episode. It was exchanged between Becca and the Doctor. Becca says, "As King James has written in his new Bible, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." And the Doctor replies, "In the Old Testament." There's a twist in the sequel. Love thy neighbor.
Yes.
So I thought that was good.
Yes. Becca wasn't kidding. These are hard times for women. If we aren't being drowned, we're being patronized to death.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yes.
And then this very important quote, which hopefully some so-called fans pay attention to. The Doctor says, "Honestly, if I was still a bloke, I could just get on with the job and not have to waste time defending myself."
Amen.
So, yeah, that should be captioned under just about every Jodie Whittaker episode, just to get everybody to calm down and just enjoy the show.
Yes.
All right. Any other quotes, Jesse?
Nope.
All right. I got a couple more here.
Okay.
All right. King James and the Doctor, this exchange. King James goes, "Who are you? How do you know these things?" And the Doctor replies, "I know because we're all the same. We want certainty, security, to believe that people are evil or heroic, but that's not how people are. You want to know the secrets of existence? Start with the mysteries of the heart."
I like that one a lot.
That's a good quote, I think.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that parting exchange from Graham and King James that I just referenced. Graham's talking about, we're telling King James to behave, and Graham goes, "Or else we will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger." And King James is like, "Ezekiel?" And Graham goes, "Tarantino."
Yes. Great things.
Yes. And again, that's Ezekiel 25:17. "The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the wickedness of evil men," etc., etc.
Nice.
Thank you. So, all right. Love that quote.
Yes.
All right. And Samuel L. Jackson really sings that line. All right. What's your rating for this one?
So I give this 8.5 wet chains.
Ooh, very nice. We are in sync, believe it or not. I gave it also 8.5. 8.5 bobbed apples. Because how great was that opening bit where the Doctor is like, "Ooh, bobbed apples. I love bobbed apples."
Yes. I thought you might pick that, so that's why I did
bobbing
it.
apples, yeah.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Is it Halloween? No, it's Sunday. So, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was good. So, and of course, you got the good shot of Jodie Whittaker with an apple stuck in her teeth. Now, we'll do just a real quick reverse the polarity once again.
Very nice.
I want to go back all the way to, we're going to reverse the polarity, the neutron flow, back to 1971 with the Damons. And this was the 5th serial from season 8 in 1971, written by quote-unquote Guy Leopold, which was just a pseudonym for the writers Barry Letts and Robert Sloman. And in this story, very similar. There's although it takes place in 1971, there's a small village called Devil's End where there's an archaeological dig excavating the infamous Devil's Hump, a Bronze Age burial mound. And there's a local white witch named Olive Hawthorne who arrives to protest, warning of great evil and the coming of the horned beast, but she's dismissed as a crank. And the Third Doctor and Joe seem to be like watching this televised broadcast about the dig, and they get involved. And Unit, of course, tags along. They get involved. And the Doctor and Joe end up going to this dig, and they eventually find this small spaceship in the mound. Mm-hmm. So we have the kind of like with the hill in this story. Okay. We have some alien things going on underneath, and the Doctor eventually realizes that, oh hey, his best enemy, the Master, is trying to conjure up an ancient and all-powerful demon who is seen on Earth to be the devil, but is actually an alien.
Oh, okay.
So very similar to this story. And later on, the Doctor gets captured by a mob of villagers working for the Master, and they end up tying him to a maypole and plan to burn him alive. So kind of sort of like, the Doctor almost getting drowned as a witch. And ultimately, the Master's defeated, and he tries to escape but ends up getting captured by Unit troops, taken away. And everything gets all settled out, and everybody enjoys their May Day celebrations. So
good.
So definitely, it's a John Pertwee story, The Third Doctor. So that should be right up your alley.
I do love me some Pertwee. Yeah,
you do. So I would recommend that one. If you liked the Witchfinders, I think you definitely enjoy the Damons. So check that out.
Okay.
All right. Feedback. So we have some feedback. We got Holly from Wisconsin and Paul from Australia once again. I'm presuming you have Holly's.
I do.
You want to read Holly's?
Yes, I will.
All right.
Hey, all. I don't know why all of a sudden I've given Holly an accent. Well, hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We did. I have to say this was a good episode that kept my attention. Alan Cummings as King James was good. The only other role that I've seen him in was on the CBS show called Instinct. Great moments again with the Doctor and companions and who that they were at the time. The Morax made an interesting villain as well. Also got to love the use of the psychic paper. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Well, Holly, it's always great to hear from you.
It is always great to hear from you.
And it's kind of funny because I'll just watch the episode and then maybe half hour later, I'll get this email from Holly who just quickly dashes one off.
Yeah.
And enjoy that quite a bit. So it's always a nice warm fuzzy blanket.
Yeah, it is. She she
like clockwork.
Yeah, she's like, let me give some quick notes. And it's always appreciated.
Yep. So
all right, and our man Paul.
Yep, Paul from Australia.
Yes.
So Paul Beck writes in once again. Hi, Charles, Jesse, and Karen. Unfortunately, Karen's not with us, but fingers crossed for next week, everybody. Mm-hmm. Got to say right from the start, I'm struggling to put into words how I felt about this episode. Probably underwhelmed comes to mind.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was not a fan of this. I found myself intrigued at first with an interesting setup, but as the story progressed, I think the ending let it down. There just wasn't a great payoff to the story as far as the imprisoned aliens. Even Linda says, Linda says to tell you she thought it was a mediocre story, a story we have seen done better. And he has in parentheses, the water of Mars comes to mind.
Okay.
So I guess that's his reverse of the polarity is we're going to go back to the waters of Mars. And so Paul continues. Anyway, on the positive side, I thought Alan Cumming ate up every scene he was in as King James, right?
Yes.
He definitely took a liking to Ryan. And what about Graham in his Witchfinders hat? He looked adorable.
Yes, he did.
I want that action figure, smiley face.
Yes.
Yeah, the Graham with the Witchfinders hat. Yeah, that'd be a pretty good Funko too, I think.
That would be, yes.
Paul continues, I love the Doctor's reaction to being relegated to Witchfinder's assistant by the King, with Jodie examining the psychic paper as though it was malfunctioning. Very funny. We'll be curious to hear what you all thought. Kindest regards, as always, Paul. And P.S. I hope next week really does take us away, hopefully to a better episode.
Ooh, okay.
Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. So apparently Paul was not, and his wife Linda were not fans of this episode. So hopefully, Paul, we've maybe helped you reevaluate things a little bit, or at least give you some things to think about. So if not, no big deal.
Absolutely.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's cool.
Absolutely.
We're good with that.
Yeah.
And to each their own. Everybody reacts to episodes different ways, so no big deal. And but it's always great to hear from you guys. And thank you, Holly and Paul, for writing in.
Absolutely.
Yep. And if you want to be like Holly and Paul and be one of the cool kids that writes into Next Stop Everywhere, you can reach us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. Don't forget the SMG, kids. nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on the Twitter at nextstopsmg. Again, don't forget the SMG for Southgate Media Group. Or you can reach us at Facebook, the evil Facebook, as we've discussed earlier. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. You can reach us there. Or you can reach us on our spiffy new Instagram, Next Stop Everywhere Podcast. That's at Next Stop Everywhere Podcast on the Insta. So please check those out. Otherwise, you can please go to Apple iTunes and or Apple Podcasts and rate and review us. We would definitely appreciate that because that helps people find us. And we always need people finding us.
Yes, we do.
And Jesse, how about you? Where can they find you on the interwebs?
If they are going, I sure like that clever banter Charles and Jesse have. I wish there was more in my life.
Well, at least clever on your part, not so much on my part.
We have such a deal for you.
Yes. Two podcasts in one.
Yes. Charles and I are talking the DC Universe Direct series Titans. Comes out every week, and we have been discussing that. Good stuff. We really have enjoyed this take of the classic DC comic book Teen Titans / Titans. So Charles and I, you can see this with the Southgate Media.
And that's on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast.
Absolutely.
I should add that.
Yes, I am on. I am set listing Bruce at is the Bruce Springsteen podcast on this network as well, where I talk to fans of Bruce Springsteen from around the world. So if you want to hear me talk a little music, there's a Mary question I ask every episode, and I'm in the process of taking together some of those answers, going to splice it together, and I'm actually going to have the guy who came up with the Mary question, Jay, listen to all of them and talk of it. So that'll be fun. Look for that probably in January. You
talked about having me on there too, didn't you?
Yes, we do. We do need to get you on there. I am at on Twitter, Jesse Jackson DFW, and you can find me on Facebook, Jesse Jackson, Louisville, Texas. Charles, where can they hear you and find your fine work?
Well, I don't know about fine work, but they can find me at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. And my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the things we talk about here in Next Stop Everywhere, including Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish audios, you name it. Also, talk about the other podcasts that I do here for Southgate Media Group, including that Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, which I hear is a really great podcast that I do with you, Jesse, and where we talk about, of course, the DC Universe series Titans, and we'll probably talk a little Young Justice and some Doom Patrol when that show airs. So please check that out. We definitely appreciate that. If you like what we do here, hopefully you'll like that as well. And otherwise, there's the Fandom Zone podcast that I do with Karen Lindsay, who, obviously is not here today, but hopefully we can try and get some more Fandom Zone episodes out there for everybody. Working on that. And Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where I talk about all things Twin Peaks and David Lynch. So that's like 4 podcasts right there, everybody.
Yeah.
And
look at you.
I know.
Yeah.
And with both Titan Talk and Next Stop Everywhere on a weekly basis, it's been keeping us busy, hasn't it?
Yes, it has been.
You're probably so sick to death of me right now.
Not sick to death of you, just kind of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we only got a couple more weeks to go.
Absolutely.
So, before we get a little break.
Yes.
So hang in there. We'll get there. Everybody, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk about It Takes You Away.
Ooh,
which is a very ominous.
That's
a very ominous title. Yes. Yeah.
That's a
hopefully
very creepy title.
Hopefully the episode is just as creepy, if not creepier.
Absolutely.
But It Takes You Away sounds very promising, doesn't it? So let's see if it lives up to the title.
They're coming to take you away. They're coming to take you away.
I think that's something else. But,
okay. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what it turns out to be. And I'm guessing it's not Pennywise the clown.
No.
But yeah. So that's going to be the 9th episode of Series 11. So we'll talk about that next time on Next Stop Everywhere. Otherwise, thank you again, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. We definitely appreciate all the feedback we get.
I saved one quote because I thought this was perfect way to end.
Okay.
I could show you everything if you stop being afraid of what you don't understand.
Yes, that
was words to live by.
That was a great quote. I'm glad you got that in there. Thank you. Wise words once again from the doctor.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, listeners.
And Karen, our thoughts are with you, and hope that you'll be able to join us next week.
Absolutely.
Because we definitely miss you, and everybody should be missing Karen. Yep. And we'll see you next time, right here. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Bye, everybody.